All right, so it being on or about 6:39, I call
Yes.
the eight.
Let me record,
Yeah,
even though we're
Recording in progress.
it being 6:39 p.m., I call the April 28th, 2025 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission to order. This meeting is being conducted remotely. Attendance by board and commission members shall count towards a quorum. We do not, as you can see, we do not have a quorum tonight. Let's begin with just a roll call to establish who is here for the record. Ben Carroll, present.
Mike Spady, present.
As noted before the meeting went live, because we don't have a quorum, we cannot vote on permits tonight. We can have informal discussions on some issues that are on our agenda or some topics that are on our agenda. So we'll begin with a discussion of our permitting audit, which is the first item on the agenda.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So to start, Wayne, out of respect for your time, we don't have a quorum tonight. I would totally defer to you if you want to begin this conversation tonight or wait for another meeting.
This is very informal. We're really just
Okay.
brainstorming at this point. You know, I've already met with Jen, so I heard from her. So at this point, I'm just collecting information on, the basic charge is, can we streamline the regulatory process in any way? But the given is without compromising anything about the quality of life or environmental protection. So I'm really mostly here just asking you, are there things you've thought about? I mean, clearly, stormwater review is the time factor that maybe you have the least control over. Are there anything like that? You know, once I do a report and gets reviewed by staff, I'd love to come back with you and have a more substantial discussion about ideas that we're testing. But I really just want to hear from you. Are there things that you think, I mean, obviously Jen works through on a day-to-day basis, so I'm sure
Yeah.
there, but are there more structural things that require other departments, things that require resources, things that might be beyond Jen's control?
Oh, sorry, just looking
Don't
at
worry about
Jen's.
that. That's
Alert
people
popped up.
who are still in the audience. People are
Yeah.
popping in, and I'm just throwing that there so they see it.
So it's a really good question from our perspective. I think as volunteers, the meetings show up when they show up, and we don't always see everything that happens behind the scenes. So I think Jen is in a lot of ways better positioned to answer the questions as to what becomes the biggest roadblocks. I know we've had a few projects that stormwater has taken some time. I think part of that is maybe simultaneous permitting through planning board and conservation on some projects that come to my mind. I wonder, it probably creates more procedural difficulties, but if there isn't an opportunity to do joint meetings between the commissions for something occasionally as they arise. My personal opinion, and I think there may be people who have a differing opinion of this, is we've really tried to streamline the septic system when a septic system's in failure. And I think I don't have a great basis for this, but there may potentially be a way to do that even further. When a septic system's in failure and it's close to resource areas, as they often are on houses built, particularly in the 80s in this town, is there another way to look at those that maybe removes them or creates a further expedited process? Somebody's clearly done that, and there's some streamlined procedures within our regs, but it's something that comes to my mind. We have a lot of septic projects in front of us. If that's something that we could move along faster, I think it'd be in everybody's interest.
Agreed.
Maybe by faster. They're only one meeting.
Most of them. Yeah, most of them are one meeting.
Yeah.
It was just something that popped in my head. We did. Because I don't see them anymore, I don't even recall what the actual specifics of it are, but the minimum project thing that we did a couple of years ago, Jen, which allows staff approval as opposed to a full permit.
Oh, only a couple of minor projects that are also listed in Wetland Protection Act. Yeah, we added those to the bylaw, so.
Can I ask about two things in particular? So you mentioned joint hearings, presumably rarely, but occasionally. I used to be planning director in a city, and one of the things that we did is it wasn't a joint hearing, but to speed up the time and particularly to save people consultant time. We would have the Conservation Commission meet, and then an hour or 2 hours later, the planning board would meet. Just, so that you'd get the permit or rejection and then go straight to the board. Have you ever talked about that, and would that potentially work for you?
I don't know. I think we tend to meet at the same time as the select board and occasionally the planning board.
I think so.
Monday's a popular meeting night
Yeah.
all around, throughout the state. Not just us.
Yeah, I mean, it only works if one of the board shifts their schedule so that you could do those things occasionally. Again, I don't know if it's beneficial to you. It's one of the things I'm exploring, but.
Yeah, planning board is at the same time as us tonight. I mean, the issue is it doesn't come up all that often. Like
Yeah.
it really doesn't come up as much as I would even think it would. But occasionally we have things that are going through simultaneously, and typically people go through planning board and then come to us. Maybe that's not true. Maybe it's the other way. But I think people want some finality from one before they move to the next.
Sure.
The other thing that came up for me, and again, just things I'm highlighting, not pushing at all, but you use the same buffer and resource area numbers anywhere in town, as opposed to some places say, well, vernal pools are really sensitive. Maybe you need even a bigger number. I think you're using 200 feet, but you're using it everywhere. And maybe pristine areas of town, however you define it, should have a default, a rebuttable presumption of a bigger buffer, and more priority areas for development, commercial, industrial areas should have a smaller area. Have you talked about that, and does that have any appeal to you?
Well, our ACECs have areas of critical environmental concern have a additional buffer zone.
Yep.
I don't think that it's a bad idea. I think a conversation about zoning in relation to how it affects buffer zones probably makes some sense.
Because as I say, my goal isn't to either gut your regs or make them stricter, but it is sort of to think about rationalizing.
Yeah.
Wherever there's strict rules, we all should be able to say, here's why they're strict and why they're not. So those are sort of the ones that stood. I mean, obviously the stormwater, which I think is a challenge, but that's sort of my spiel, unless you have other thoughts that I should pay attention to as I look through this.
I don't know that I do off cuff. I'd like to dig in a little bit more and see if I can think of something else.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike, anything you want to add?
No, I mean, you kind of hit it. That's really all we kind of have that would have to expedite anything we do, really.
Yeah. So this is an iterative process. So I'm doing a draft report that says, here's all the issues. Maybe you love some, that maybe you hate some. The town then says, here's the ones we're most interested. Please develop that as draft code or draft standards. And then it's up to the town, but I'm certainly available to shop them to you and any other board to, to get your more detailed input on those things.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I'd love some help taking a look at them.
Okay, that's really all I have. Thank you so much for your time, particularly given that you didn't have a quorum. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Night. So what can we do next, Jen?
Let's see, hearings, COC, enforcement. The discussion about the budget we can't do, but we're going to need to do that before our next meeting, so.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to try to schedule another another meeting before our next scheduled meeting.
That's the Tuesday meeting, right?
It's going to be tough. That's the Tuesday meeting. Actually, yeah, we can't actually, can we?
What do you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the 12th, you're not available. And then the 19th is town meeting. That's why we're meeting on the 20th. Unless it's like.
No, I'm not available the 12th.
We may have to do just a email reply only to me, no discussion kind of vote. because they need the vote before town meeting, but if we can't find another
Mhm.
meeting date, then we're kind of stuck with that as our only legal option.
Yeah. Yeah, the 19th is right there. Um,
I mean, unless you have a Thursday, May 1st or 8th.
it, can we not do the 5th, which is next week?
I'm supposed to be at citizen
It's okay.
training, but if we have to have a Concom meeting in order to make the vote that everybody needs for town meeting, then we should do that, and I'll just have to ask.
I could do, is the 13th possible? Which is a Tuesday.
I
It'll depend on other
It
members too.
depend on the rest of your members.
Yeah.
May 13, we could, we can,
We do it at 6:30, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can make, I'm pretty good on the night, so you guys, we can roll with that.
and then would you have the full agenda from tonight, and then 1 week later we meet again, or are you
I
trying
think
to get this?
I think
one?
we probably should, where the quorum issue came up.
Mhm. Okay, well, we'll have to poll everyone and see if they're available.
Yeah.
That'll be 2 Tuesdays in a row, just so you know. Bylaw regulations. I don't know if Ryan has anything he would like to present. We've been doing a lot of site work, so he's only actually in the office for, a few items. Let me promote him. And then I think Ed, you joined after the meeting started. We don't have a quorum, so we're not discussing any wetland permits tonight. We just have a couple of discussions that we can have, but not do any voting or make any decisions tonight. So just so you're aware. Hey, Ryan.
Exciting night, huh? I really don't have much. Like Jen was saying, we've been doing a lot of outside stuff, but I can share my screen really quick. I made a little list for you guys. So a lot of the work I've been doing lately is going to the presumptions of findings. Most of the time in the bylaw, it was just saying, go back to the first page of the bylaw and look at the presumptions, and everything that is said there is what we believe. So I went through and I actually picked out which ones were applicable to these certain resource areas and just put it there so that people can find it. I did some work with the inland flooding. I was researching runoff curve numbers, which is a value that's dictated by flow, and you can calculate like how much runoff is going to be caused by a certain rain event. So I added some language about that and regarding the differences between like lawns and shrubs and trees for flood mitigation, and why we should be doing less lawns, maybe. For rivers, streams, and creeks, I was looking at freshwater mussels a lot. So I talked about that in the preamble as well. They're a very important species. And then floating solar. This is maybe one day will be applicable to you guys. I promise. It is a relatively new technology that is mostly being implemented on small ponds and like small bodies of water. So if anybody ever comes before you guys with a project asking to do floating solar, the answer I have is like probably maybe don't do it. It's very new technology. The research isn't out a lot right now. It's starting to come out. I found a Cornell study where they covered 70% of 3 different ponds, and it actually increased local greenhouse gas emissions, and it really hurt the environment. So from what I gathered, it seems that the coverage percentage really matters when it comes to how negatively these solar panels are affecting the environment, but it's still really new. So just be cautious if someone comes comes up with that. All right. And then, yeah, me and Jen were just out hanging out at the vernal pools, soil sampling at the farm. We're having a lot of
Not
fun.
just hanging out, we were
No,
collecting
of course not. Yeah.
scientific data. We have 5 certified now.
Yeah,
That's
we were
awesome. That's a
certified,
lot.
a lot of them.
That's a lot.
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ryan. It's just
No, that's
a
all I
public
have,
meeting,
really.
I don't want people to think we're just hanging out. It's a lot of work. Great, I'm sorry, and you left off with soil sampling.
Yeah, that was the other, because I had a lot of fun soil sampling. I know that it is hard work, but
So describe to everyone what that was.
so that was his farm participating in a study? That's what it was, right? Yeah, and we were going through and we were looking at the amount of pressure it took to break through the soil. So we're looking at soil compaction and the texture of the soil. And they were collecting samples to send to a lab to be able to tell us, like, I guess the condition of the soil, how good it is, whether or not it would be good, and like how to approach bettering the soil. So it was really interesting.
So it was American Farmland Trust that Dan had visiting Tufts Farm. And they're part of a study. I think they were taking 200 samples throughout New England.
Yeah, 200 farms.
200 farms. Yeah. So pretty interesting. We'll see what they come up with, and they'll have recommendations for how to improve the soil in the fields at Tufts Farm.
Mhm.
Good.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Do you guys have anything that you would like to have Ryan focus on? We're getting pretty close to the end of his time. for the-
Yeah, you're basically at the end of it. How much longer do you have left, Ryan?
Me and Jen were actually talking about that today. We'll figure it out. We'll get back to you on that one.
Did you like certifying vernal pools?
Yes. Oh my God, that has been
Fun.
like, that's what I was saying. Like, obviously we're doing work out there and we're making sure that we're taking down the species and
Yeah.
being safe and protecting everything, but it is genuinely a good time to be out there
I
certifying.
assume,
It's like, it's
Jen,
really-
that we have more that aren't certified.
Oh yeah, we only got to 5. The one at Tufts, another one at Tufts was number 6. So I'll finish labeling the photos and send that in.
I think if Ryan left knowing how to certify a vernal pool by himself, that'd be a good thing.
Yeah, I agree, Ben. I agree. Very successful.
No, it's true.
Successful internship, I would say.
Soils and field work are very important. So yeah. Good.
Awesome.
Okay, the open space plan, I did submit it to the Division of Conservation Services today. And I sent out a whole bunch of emails to a whole bunch of people saying, here's the draft, please review it and give comments. Provide a comment letter if you would. So we have a draft for Ben to sign. And so I can do the presentation.
Yeah, please.
Okay. My instructions are covering my toolbar. Here we go. Okay, and you're just seeing the top slide, right?
Yep, just says open space and recreation plan.
Great, okay. So public outreach, we did a ton of public outreach. The survey was actually provided in 5 different languages. The schools gave us the most common languages. During the municipal vulnerability preparedness grant project that we had done, only English had been answered, but it was great to try to provide it in 5 different languages. We had at least 4 editions of the town crier, Many different newsletters, different social media campaigns. We posted laminated flyers at conservation and recreation properties so that people visiting the site would also see the QR code and be able to fill out the survey. Emails were sent to town hall employees, boards and committee members, any of our volunteers, the trail volunteers, invasive species volunteers, the gardeners were also included. Town hall employees, different boards and committees, community scouts, Natural Resources Trust was also sent those, and the Native Land Conservancy. And I conducted the presentation at 10 different public meetings and 2 public forums. I thought we did really well with 310 responses. They were all in English, but they also showed down at the bottom that little over half of the people responding did so as a family, which I think is fantastic. People sitting down together, talking about open space and reviewing the survey together. I think it was a really good outcome of our project. And it looks like we touched on pretty much all of the age groups in town. So it seems like it was a very representative survey responses that we received. So when we asked residents to identify their favorite activities and types of facilities that they enjoy, hiking trails, walking trails, and dog walking were the 3 top highest ranking activities, followed by gardening, and then playgrounds and swimming. And residents most often visited forested land and unpaved paths, and that was followed by gravel, paved paths, and neighborhood parks. And survey results are found in section 6 and an appendix. And a number of technical resources were also used to fill in some of the blanks and provide planning guidance. The environmental inventory and analysis is in section 4 of the open space plan. Residents gave a lot of great ideas for how to preserve property and facilities that they would like to see. All of the ideas from residents combined with the technical resources to identify the town's goals and objectives. We've grouped them into 12 categories of goals. And remember that there's no obligation to actually complete all of the items that we have in the goals section, in the action plan section. It's just a framework for what types of projects we'd like to see in the next 10 years. And it increases our ability to obtain state and federal funding if it's listed in the plan as something the community identified that they would like to see. And those goals are found in section 7. So I'm going to go through the 12 goals. Our goals for the next 10 years, that one of the highest priorities has always been protecting the drinking water quality and quantity. And that, the water department and Canoe River Aquifer Advisory Committee have done drinking water protection and made some significant contributions to protecting that. Canoe River Aquifer, and through enforcing water restrictions and meeting the town's MS4 requirements. Also looking to preserve the critical natural resources and retain corridors. These are connections to other open space, the Canoe River Greenbelt, trying to remove barriers like dams and culverts. Looking at our inventory of open space and trying to provide different natural community types. So 20 to 25% grassland, shrubs, and young forest or gravel areas. And 75 to 85% would be forested, 10 to 15% would be wildlands. And that's a project that we would need to do, looking at our own property, designating what those areas are, if they're forested and if they have special areas, and that helps us identify, the miles of trails that are appropriate for each property. We're also looking at vernal pools, the Atlantic white cedar swamps, and having a no net loss of wetlands or floodplain or open space. And then we have Al's project to restore chestnuts throughout town. Preventing loss of agricultural land is something really important. The 2020 Climate Action Plan identified southeastern Mass as an area that would have some food security issues. And so preserving our agricultural areas is a really important goal, not just for the farmland soils, but the local active farms, promoting farming on town lands as we do, and then promoting residential farming, local gardening, and NRT is looking at animal husbandry programs. Similar to that is preventing the loss of archaeological, indigenous, cultural, scenic, and historical resources and assets. So hoping to engage with more Native peoples to understand pre-colonial Easton is something really important for us to do. The Historic Commission would like to update their historic preservation plan. There are also goals to create an archaeological investigation of the town and then investigate other areas of local folklore like Turtle Rock or Meditation Rock. We want to ensure that lands we thought were protected actually are protected. And you'll see down here, this is a recording at the Registry of Deeds to make sure that anybody looking at a particular piece of municipal land in the future will know that it really is protected under Chapter 40, Section 8C for wetland protection. Our requirement for a matrix that includes all of our local open space. The green is what's required by the Division of Conservation Services, but just listing Southeastern Management Area really doesn't help us identify where the property is. So we do include the map and parcel, the acreage, who manages the property, an actual address if we have one, and then the book and page information and how the land was purchased, whether it was a tax title taking or a donation or through grants. Expanding and improving outdoor and passive and active recreation for all ages, for healthy lifelong experiences is our goal number 6. And we're looking for a diversity of programs and facilities, improving maintenance of existing facilities, creating beltways that connect open spaces, including additional sidewalks or bike lanes. A community center, senior center, after school areas were something that many residents said in the survey that they would like to see, including and environmental education, and if we can reach the statewide goal of having some sort of open space within a quarter mile of everyone's home to try to have a little bit more equity in where open space is located throughout town. Expanding recreational opportunities on waterways and water bodies. The Recreation Department is looking to start doing some kayak programs at either the town pool, behind the town pool, or as we've already discussed at New Pond Dam. Accessible docks, piers, boat launches, wildlife blinds, improving parking to those areas, informational kiosks or lighting, and managing invasive plants. And I think Nate is texting me. He was coaching a baseball game. Sorry, I'm just going to answer him so he doesn't try to come. Coordinating responsible land use management, and that's where we would be completing our land management plans for each of our properties, improving forest stewardship, looking at the forest stewardship plans that we have, seeing if there's opportunities for improving our forests through that active management. Creating the Trails Committee is something we did last year. We're sort of on hold for public engagement in that area. Same with the managing invasive plants, managing deer population, preventing wildlife conflicts with people and their properties, and then evaluating surplus or tax title property for their preservation values. Goal 9 is to improve access and communication about open space. This is a chart. We included about 30 different properties in the survey mostly to find out where are people's favorite places and where do they really not even, know where they are. The where question shows us we need to do a lot more information for the public on wayfinding and signs and, advertising the properties that we do have. So improving mapping, both paper and web-based, improving connectivities, parking, amenities, better advertised locations, promoting the open space plan is something people mentioned in the survey. Where do they find it? How can they read it? Partnering with other organizations for open space development and improving sections of the Bay Circuit Trail. Improving environmental education, communication, and public outreach. How to get the word out, where do people get their information? It seems like a lot is on social media. Some of it would be signs located on conservation property. And then we do have things like the Rescue Raptors program where we're talking about those rodenticides and trying not to use the second generation anticoagulant rodenticides and the Mass Audubon's campaign. Looking at providing internships. So Ryan has one of those citizen science activities, and many people mentioned, the need for a local compost area, which would actually help with some of our wetland violations if people had a place to bring their compost. Advancing Massachusetts and Easton's resiliency goals. We're still working on the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness 2.0 plan. We have a regional plan with Easton, Mansfield, and Norton. The 2022 Climate Action Assessment talks a lot about the food insecurity, native planting, landscaping with edible plants, looking at ways to improve carbon sequestration, tree planting, tree care campaigns. And we have a Climate Action Planning Committee, so hopefully we'll be able to do some projects with them. And the 12th goal is to improve and create new partnerships in open space, identifying our partners and our funding opportunities, creating a list of potential scout and volunteer projects in case, somebody wants to do a project. There's a downtown revitalization and funding sponsorship sort of programs that people were interested in trying to start. And so our final steps are to present the draft open space plan for public comment, which happened today. We do need to put this information on our webpage, so that'll be coming up soon. We're collecting comments on the draft open space plan from whoever is willing to give them. Edits, if people have photos that enhance the text, then I can certainly add those, and getting those public support letters. Some organizations are required to provide a support letter: the Select Board, Conservation Commission, Planning and Zoning, Board of Health, Community Preservation Committee, and our regional planning agency, Old Colony Planning Council, are all required to provide letters. And so hopefully we get those pretty soon. I also sent the draft plan to the 57 or so people who provided their email when they did the survey. And so hopefully, since they were willing to do the survey, they'd have some time to take a look at the open space plan draft and provide some comments. And the final open space plan, once Division of Conservation Services approves it, will be at the library and our website. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That was a lot of effort to get people to respond, and I think the input wound up being really good.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I think 310 I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good response for a survey.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, yeah, I agree. It was a challenge to get the level of participation that we did, and kudos on you for getting it.
Thank you.
I think it paid off. I think it actually is a pretty accurate representation of what I hear people want. So
Totally.
I think we got great answers from people and incorporated all of those into the action plan. The action plan is long because we have, 12 goals.
And I love the fact that so many people did them with their kids.
Yes.
Yeah, solid. That's good.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited about that too. That's good. Instead of just individuals doing it, it's nice that they're talking to their families about it. It helps raise awareness and education, which is really good. So I did give you a draft support letter. Feel free to edit or just sign whatever is more convenient for you, Ben.
You know, I'll take a real look at it. I just haven't yet. I apologize.
I mean, the open space plan is 253 pages with all the appendices. So it's a monster, but if you know, it depends on what you're interested in. If you just want to focus on, well, what were the results of the survey? What's the analysis and the action plan? Then there's just 2 sections to go through. If you want to read more about the environmental inventory and the action and our land inventory and what is open space and how do you protect it and you know what's all that information, that's section 5, 4 and 5.
Thank you.
So you know there's a table of contents. You can just go to the page you're looking for, go to the appendices you're looking for.
I'm not afraid of lengthy documents.
Yeah, this is
You're
fun.
up for that.
It's sort of what I do.
Yeah, it's actually a lot shorter. I think I might be the first one to apply under the new workbook. And our conservation agents group, the Mass Society of Municipal Conservation Professionals, also provided a lot of comments on the draft. And so all of our comments were taken, which was, you know, cut out all the superfluous stuff that does not directly translate into an action plan. You know, remove that. A number of sections were removed. We had requested for quite a while to go from a 7-year plan to a 10-year plan so that we can do more long-term planning. That was a little bit of a fight, but that was accepted. So this is a 10-year plan, not a 7-year plan. Typically the update takes 2 years just to do an update, not even a full, you know, start to finish plan. And so a 10-year plan is helpful.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's it since we don't.
I was just peeling back to the agenda, seeing if there's anything else we can talk about, and I think we're out of what we can talk about here tonight.
Just that the fee schedule will begin May 1st on Permitize. We're gonna do a sort of a test run in a Zoom meeting on Wednesday before it goes live, just to make sure it works properly.
Perfect.
But yeah, there's not much else we can talk about without quorum.
Well, I apologize to anyone who's still with us that we didn't have a quorum. We'll be circulating a interim meeting. I'm trying to get one booked between now and the 20th. With that, we'll adjourn.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.